Today I wanted to cover a couple of things that you're going to need for the final / project 6. Let's quickly go ahead and look at the definition of the problem. Let me minimize this. Let me go to the assignments here. And we'll do a test drive. And we'll do testing this and continue. Okay. So okay. So final exam is going to be a project which requires you to make use of lists and functions. So basically, these are the key components that have to be in your program. You have to use functions and you have to use lists. Okay. If you don't use lists or functions, well actually and functions, I need to see both, then you're going to lose a lot of points. Okay, so this is kind of a combination of everything that we've done so far, and we're combining it into one project. Okay, so here you'll be writing a program to maintain a student database. Your program will maintain student information such as names, IDs, and the exam score 1, or exam 1 score, exam 2 score, and exam 3 score. So you're basically doing 3 exams, okay, and you're storing those inside of arrays, or lists in this case, okay. So this is the description of the project. Write a program with 5 lists, and these are the lists, okay, and probably you should use the same names, okay. The names you can use as names, the ID you can use as ID, the score 1, score 2, score 3 will be lists that holds the exam score for each student. So the index will indicate which student you're talking about, and the index will allow you to pull up the student's name along with their ID, along with their score 1, 2, or 3. Okay, I'm going to finish talking about the problem, then I'm going to answer questions. Okay. Your program should display the following menu of choices to the user. Again, you've done this menu stuff before. It's similar to the last project that you worked on. To perform the operations as suggested by the user, and always come back to the menu and wait for the user to type in his or her choice. Okay, so P is to populate the student information. So the student information basically is all of this data for each of the arrays. So populate will populate all of the array elements. So it will ask for 10 students, right? So it will ask for 10 names, it will ask for 10 IDs, it will ask for 10 score 1, 10 score 2s, and 10 score 3s. Now, when you first write this program, it's suggested that you build it for 3 students and then expand it out to 10. So expanding out to 10 should not be that much of a modification. So when you're building the first iteration or the first version of your program, do it with 3 so that when you're testing it, you don't have to slog through entering in 10 names, 10 IDs, 10 score 1, 10 score 2, 10 score 3. Okay, so that's just a tip right there. So, but the final program should allow it to do 10 students. Okay. D is to display the student information, and this is all talked about a little bit further down here. And C is to calculate the grade. We'll talk about that again a little bit lower. And E is to exit. So that's what your menu is. This is your menu. Okay. And remember, you're always supposed to go back to your menu unless you hit E, and then that will exit out of the program. Okay. So if the user types P, which is populate, okay, ask the user to enter 10 student names, IDs, score 1, score 2, score 3 for each student. Okay. If the user types D, then ask the user to enter the ID of the student, search for the student in the ID list, and display the student name, ID, score 1, score 2, score 3, return to the menu. And I'm going to talk about this today. This is what's called search, or searching in a list. And I'm going to show you, there's actually some sample code that I put in the module that shows you how to search a list. Okay, and so I'll show you how that works. Okay, and C is calculate the average of the three scores for each student and display the grade of each student. So this is just like a kind of report. It lists out every student, okay, and it lists out the average or the average of each student's score and the grade. And I know someone asked about the between 90 and 100. Yeah, it's inclusive. Okay, so I'll modify this to say it's between 90 and 100, and then B is 80 to 89, and C is 70 to 79, and let's see, 70 to 69. So this should actually be 60. Okay, this should be 60 to 69. The grade should return D, and if it's below 60. Yeah, 60. And if it's below 60, the grade should be F. Okay? And then E terminates the program. So, you want to use loops to populate and display the list elements. Okay? So, obviously your loops are going to be using range 10. Okay? Because initially you'll use range 3 to test it, and then you'll do range 10 to actually when you turn in the program. You should test it with 10 users just to make sure that that works. 10 students, so that works. The program must keep displaying the menu until the user types the option E to enter the program. For this, you can use the while loop, and you've seen examples, and I have, you've done this before, and there's an example in the module section. This is an individual project, not a group project. If I find any two projects similar or identical, both students will be penalized. So I want to see that you can write this program, not as a group. Start working on this project today, right? Right after this lecture or tomorrow. You have till Sunday to finish it. So the due date will not be extended under any circumstances. The reason why I'm this program is the key parts that are new are lists, which I've lectured on for almost a week and a half or 2 weeks, and also the searching, which I'm going to show you today. So everything else we've done before, you've actually written programs to do all of the other stuff before. And again, I highly suggest that you look at your previous projects to make sure that you understand how to do this. And again, go through the labs. I've done a lot of this stuff in the labs as well, and showing you samples of how this works. Okay. Only the submissions from eTubes are accepted. Please do not email the project to me. Please submit the exam on or before the deadline. If you try sending the project 1 minute past the deadline, eTubes will not accept it, and I will not accept this by email. Okay, so please make sure that you send it before the deadline. So all those are the key things. Okay? And I'm going to fix this for the grades later today. All right. So any questions on just reading through what the final project is? And it's worth 150 points, which basically combines the final and project 6 together. Yes, Robert. Let's see. Well, okay. To add the 10 users, their IDs, and the 3 exam scores per person, do you want that in the P for populate, or in all the programs? So the program would only work if you populate first. And this is how you populate when the program is done. And that's so you can only continue and hit P again. Okay, so populate will, well, you can do it a couple of ways, right? One, you can, when you hit populate, you can clear out the lists, okay? And then when you do display or calculate, you can check to see if the length of the lists are 0. That's the 2 ways that you can make sure that you have data in your list before you use D or C. And when you do P, you can clear out, basically delete the list, right? You can empty out the list. And there's examples on how to do that. Let's see if we can see. There's a delete or empty list. Let's see. list deletion, right? So delete list elements. It removes an element from the list. Okay, we want to delete all of them. Variation, claim lists, petition. There's a couple of ways you could do that. An empty list. Hold on 1 second. Let's look at an empty list. Let's just components. Using list as parameters. Oh, that's what I wanted to show here. Show functions. I'll check if there's a way to delete an entire list. Otherwise, you could delete them using the del. Right? You could basically go through a loop and delete every item. Yes, Robert. Go ahead. What was your question? So populate is to clear. Yes, you can put that in the populate. Okay, so you can clear that. It's not required. I mean, I didn't specify it, but to really make it a more robust program, yes, you should clear out. You should check to see if the list is 0, and if it's not, you should clear it out. All right. Populate is basically append to the list. Populate is like you're populating the list. You're putting values into the list. All right, so let's go over a couple of things. One is how to search a list. No, I don't want you to over analyze the word populate. It just means asking for each element of the list from the user. That's all populate means. Okay, just fill the list. All right. Okay, so let's go over a couple of more things in terms of lists here. We talked about, where did we stop last time? List method. So we talked about these list insert. We talked about a new list. Okay, this you wanted to make a copy of the list. But more important is so this append, right? So basically you define your list. In this case, you define the list here as an empty list, and then you append. So these appends can go into a for statement. Okay, so concatenate. Concatenate just adds to the end. The append method adds a new item to the end of the list. Concatenation. Yes, you want to be careful with concatenation. Okay, it works slightly different. Okay, where you're doing this plus like this. Okay, so let's see what this does. You go forward. You can see if this has this, and then if you concatenate, it puts that in 3, right? Element 3. Okay, so here we can see. Here I have a list, right? And here is how I can print the list, right? So I say this is the for index value in the list, okay, in fruits, okay, and then you can print every element out. Right? So this is how you set up the for. So when you're displaying, or even when you're asking for the values, you can basically do it this way. Okay, well, for the values, you want to fix it because you want a 10, right? So you want to set it to 10, and you want to do append. But when you're printing out, you want to print it out this way, okay? So this is an example of how you would print out things. And this is how to print out the position. So let's run this and see what happens. So this just basically outputs the values of a fruit, right? Okay, each and every single one. Okay, now if we look at this one uses position, right? Okay, in range, and then it's specifying the length of fruits. Okay, so this is the more flexible one because this can take any length of basically any length of lists. Okay, and this time I'm looking at the actual position. Okay, here. And then this is the range function. So this checks to see if it's 0. Alright. This is just numbers, multiply. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is searching a list. So if we go to the module section, okay, I have an example there on searching a list. So if we do view, it's under search list. Okay, and I'm going to actually show it inside of Python to show you how it works. So this is I have a list, a fixed list here. Okay, it's just called gnames. Okay, and it has John, Jim, Jane, and Mary. Okay, this line here asks for input, basically the name to search for. Okay, and basically what I'm asking the person is what is their name. Okay, and then basically I'm setting up my loop here. I say for I in range length gname, depending on how long gnames is. Okay, so this will be basically what is this? 4, right? Okay, so then the for loop will go from 0 to 3, right? So 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay? And then it does this comparison. This is the key to the search. Okay, so here I'm saying if str input is equal to, right, compared, that's the logical equals to, gnames I, which is whichever index value I'm in the loop. So on the first iteration of this for loop, this will be 0. Okay, the second iteration it will be 1, the third iteration will be 2, the fourth iteration it will be 3. Right? And if it finds it, then it will print this out. It will say name found at, and then it will display the position number. Okay? So because what I want is really the position number. Remember, if you look at the example, it's asking for you to search by the student ID, and you have to be able to print out that student's name as well as the 3 scores. Well, the only way to really know which scores and which name associates with a student ID is to find its position number in the list. Because position 0, the name for position 0, the ID for position 0, the score 1 for position 0, the score 2 for position 0, and the score 3 for position 0 are all associated with one student. So the key part to all of those that ties all of those together is this position number, right? Okay. Actually, I should write position, right? The word actually listed. I'm going to run this, and I'm going to show you how it works, and then I'm going to answer your question. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. I'm going to save it. So we know that in this list we have these people, right? Okay. So if I type in Jim, I have to spell it exactly because it has to match up. Okay. Notice it says it's found in position 1, and this is position 1. This is position 0. This is position 1. Let's go ahead and run it again, and we'll try another one. Okay. Let's try Mary. Okay. And notice it says found at position 3. Now let's run it one more time, and let's put something that's not in the list, like let's see something else. Let's use Paul. Okay. Notice it's nothing out because it falls through this if statement. It doesn't run this. And I could write something where I could say else, person not found. Okay. Susan, question. I probably over-indented, but no. But for the loop, you have to indent, and for the if, you have to indent. So actually, these could be pushed back, but no, it doesn't have to be indented that many. Okay, just the standard amount. So if I do this colon and I hit enter, it'll just use the standard, right? So it should be like here. Now. But yeah, don't get confused by the spacing. For some reason, the spacing screwed up for me. I'm not sure why, but it still will work. So this is the correct spacing, right? If I run it, okay, it still runs, right? And so if I write Jim, one. Okay, does that answer your question, Susan? Okay, good. Stephanie, yes, you had a question. Will be assigning student IDs or will you give the IDs to us? No, just you can use just an index number if you want. Just use 1, 2, student ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever. It's whatever numbers you want. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes, Robert. I want to print the position. No, you're going to use, the reason I give you this example is because I want you to basically figure out how to, find the position. But the position is going to be your index value that's going to use to print out the name, the student ID, the score 1, score 2, score 3, like that. Okay? All right? All right. So any questions on search? And actually, I'm going to have another lab, or actually another lecture on Wednesday and another lecture on Friday. So you can have three lab times throughout this whole week that you can ask me for help. So it's not like I'm just going to dump you and then see you on Sunday. All right. So again, I'd stress that you should start writing it and have questions for me on Wednesday when we have our next lab. Yes, Tim. Labs, actual labs that come with your questions. Okay, and I'll write sample stuff and I'll show you. Based on your questions, I will actually write code and try to show you some examples of how to do things. But more that it's labs. The whole time it's what I'm not going to sit and lecture. Lenny, you had a question. Another example of search. Okay. Let me see. All right, let's do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and then create a new. And call it whatever I want to call it. X. I guess. And I want to put in numbers. I want to put in. And what I'm going to do is ask, I'm going to say here, okay, this is one number lottery. can still call this string input, and I still want this to be guess it. So, and I'm going to do one more thing here. I've got to convert this to input or and then use this here, and use this here, and I want to say, in this case I'm not using the index, but print 1. Okay, and then what else? Else to do for the indentation like that. Let me look at else colon. Yeah, that's what I thought. So why is it giving me else? Okay, that's fine, whatever it is. Oh no, sorry. That's oh. Did I miss something? Someone says I'm missing a single quotes. Yeah, I'm missing a single quotes here. Here. Anywhere else? FD1. Okay. Anything else? Anyone see any other errors? Let's try it. One module. Okay. Call it module. Leave it. Line number. So let's try 131. Every time because I'm doing it in here, so I've got to do I should put in, yeah, well, you get the idea. I mean, I should actually pull this stuff out so that I can basically set some variable inside of here and then use it outside to check. Okay, but you get the idea, right? Let's try it with a correct number. Let's use 7. Yeah, this is going through every single one. Actually, I should do this slightly different. If instead of printing this here, I can set a variable. New 1 or 2. One, then we can do. Then I can basically get out of this. And then I can take this 1 or 2. One, okay, and then else. Alright, let's try it this way now. Probably made a mistake, but let's see. Yeah, let's see what you mean like else. Oh, I need to pull this back. Pull this back. Right. There we go. Okay, so this time we'll put in 1. U is not defined. Oh, I need to set it up as global. to set it. Alright, so let's try set. Alright, setting a global variable. Let's see. Where's that? Double quotes. Oh. Maybe we can do it a different way. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do that. Let's do. This whole thing going. Oh my God! Too much. Delete this. Delete. And equal. There we go. All right, 31. All right, now this should try it. All right, so let's do 51, right? So let's run it again. Put 31. Because we didn't specify it, what if to say else? One. There you go. All right. Again, doing examples is sometimes challenging even just to get all the syntax correctly. All right, so you understand that now? Okay, good. Robert, you had a question. D, you want to show the information for all 10 of specific student. All right, let's look at the problem example. Where is it? All right, so D, to display the student information. So if you see here, D, and ask the user to enter the ID of the student, search for the student in the ID list, and display the student name, ID, score 1, score 2, score 3. Return to the main menu. Did that answer your question? Answer C, do you want to calculate the grade of 10 people? Yes. So C will, for each student, see that? Calculate the average and display the grade of each student. So C does all of them, all 10. Right? Did that answer your question? And P is the upload of 10 users info. Yes, correct. All right, good. Laura, you had a question. Can you show us how to add a user input with the one then conduct a search for it. Okay. I am going to do that one in the other search example that I had. Let's look at search here. Okay. This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a blank array. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the user for the names. So I'm going to say, let's call this text input. Input. And I'm going to back this one more statement. I'm going to do 3 because it's going to take about 3 more. Here. And then I'm going to do and then I'm going to put and I got my syntax right. Syntax. This one to append. There's append. Append is over here. Append. So list and then append and the value. So here I'm going to append and or this and then it's asking for I can print out so that it gives me some indication of how many I've done. That's all the student. Alright. Code, oh, you like it, Robert? All right, good, good. Okay, so this basically is just setting up, basically adding 3 elements to my list here, right? So, and then it'll ask me to search for someone, right? So that's what this does down here. So let's see if I did it right. Run, okay. Enter the first name, Mary. And you can add 1 to make it number 1. But you get the idea. And then John. And then I want okay, now it's asking for the search, and so I'm going to say, show me which one is with John. John is found in position 1. See that? You guys want me to put this one in the samples instead, or in addition to? Yes. All right. Copy. I'll do it in addition to, so you'll get both modules in addition to. Yes, yes, I understand. Okay. This is getting fun, isn't it? Let me get a raise of hands, yes or no. All right, good. I'm surprised. All right. Okay, so this one is append search. And I'm going to do content with the editor. And movie. All right. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah. All right. Whose idea was that to ask for another one? So good. All right. Let's see. Laura, you had a question? We're done. Okay. Alfred. Back to Robert's question. Isn't C going to give you more than 10 C? Because if the user hits, let's say, C to start and not D, then there should be pre-existing database. Shouldn't there, or do you want us to start at D, have the user move down the list instead of the user choosing there, or do you want to start with D? Okay, so what I talked about with Robert was that before you do, let me go back to the problem. Let's see, I'm going to do test drive, and I want to do continue. Okay, so when the user hits D, one of the things you can do is you can write a statement like this. You can just test one of the arrays to see if there's 0, right? Or you can actually check to see if the length is the full 10 or initially 3, right? So let me start a new Python. So actually, let's do it in this one. It would be better if we do it in this one. Let me pull up my search one. This is a good one. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to say if length G name greater than, I could do it like this, greater than 0, then do all this, right? Right? Okay. So for D, right? So this will be if your variable that's holding the letter for the menu item is user choice equal to D, then you do all this, right? So I'm going to indent all this. All right, there we go. That was great. All right. Does that make sense? So D is more where we enter info, not user per se. No, P is enter data, right? Yeah, P is where you enter data. And you can also check, when you do P, you can also check to see if your array has data and then you can empty it, right? So if the length is equal to 10, then you can run a loop that says, you know, delete every item, right? So you can definitely do that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not so much worried about that. Those are minor things. I mean, if it has it, great. It makes it a more robust program. But really what I'm going to be testing, I'm going to do it in order. I'm going to hit P first, then I'm going to run through and enter in the values, and then I'm going to hit D and C after that. So you don't technically have to worry about it, but you should get into the habit of doing what's called data validation, which is, you know, you don't want to try to do a list operation on an empty list. It doesn't make any sense. Okay? So again, I'm not going to penalize you in this project for that, but you should think about it at least. All right? All right, good. And you had a question. In the lottery example, if the statement could we have done an OR instead of OR? Yeah, you could have done an OR, but I wanted to actually go through each element and compare it. And the reason I'm doing that is that's the search. I'm searching every element of the array. The OR, I don't know how big, like if someone was entering in lottery numbers, you know, the state lottery people were entering the lottery numbers every morning, then you wouldn't know what those values are, so or how many of those you are. So it would be difficult to figure it out. So what this does, this is what's called traversing a list. You basically use a for and an index, and you go through every element of the list, and you can compare it with some sort of input. So or is a little bit less flexible, equals is I'm checking every single value, right? Now what I could do is I could break out of the loop if I wanted to when I found it, because what I'm doing is I'm checking every single one, right? Even though, let's say the lottery number matched on element number 3 and it was a 10 element array, I'm still going through all 10 even though I've done it. I'm just setting the variable for number 3. Whereas I could actually break out of the loop and save some processing time by saying if it's found, then break, right? Get out of the loop. Did that answer your question? All right, good. Let's see. Robert, did you have another question, or are you just doing hands up from before? Do you have a working? So let's say, sorry, no information stored in database if they choose C or D before they populate. So if I say this, then I can go out here, and now write else, print, sorry, That's your question? Yes. Okay. So yeah, what I'm doing here is I'm just checking to see if the length of the list is greater than 0. That means I know for sure elements are in the list, right? Okay, Stephanie, you had a question. Can you get a more clear put P? I don't understand. Example to clear. Oh, you mean to delete every element in the list? Clear out, yeah. So if we look at our list, again, I'm always referring back to this, okay? So, we have the, not remove, but we have delete. Here's delete. You can use pop or you can use delete. Here's delete. Cloning lists. List deletion. So here's a list deletion, right? So here, it's basically saying delete a list from element 1 all the way to 5, right? So this is, let's run this. So it's basically doing element 1 here, 2, 3, 4, but not including 5, right? So if I want to delete the whole thing, what do you think I would use here? Why don't you write it for me? If I want to delete the entire list. Index. No. Alright, I'll show you a different way of doing it. So here, I'm just going to copy this so that I don't mess up typing it. Okay, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to my search. Let's see, search, right? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do, actually, at the end of this, I'm going to just delete the list, right? So let's just delete it. So let's do this. And in this case, I'm going to do from element 0 to rank, I don't know if this will work. Let's try it and see what happens. Alright, let's do run. Oops. Run. y equals if, oh, I did an indent. So I got an indent here, indent here, indent here, indent here, indent here, indent here. Okay, so add names to the list. So let's do, well, how do I know it's empty? Let's stop here for a second. And I want to just put in the, right, see that it's empty. And, it liked it, so let's see if that works. Let's add like, mark. Because I didn't use, should have changed that. I don't need this, right? And starting name is on the list. Okay. Okay, let's try it again. Let's close this first. Save it. It's me. Name search for, let's say, Jim. The name is empty. Let's see, what did I do here? If it is greater than 0, oh, this should be out of the loop. But okay, this populates the list, right? Then it checks to see if the list is greater than 0, and then it asks you, enter in the name, and then it will go through and search. It says it'll find it. If it finds it, it's there. Otherwise, it will tell you no. And then at the end, it will delete it, and then print it out to show you that it's empty. Okay, so let's kill this. Let's try it again. Name is found at position 1. My name list is empty. Why did I do else here? That's because I'm doing it each time, right? I went through. But you kind of get the idea, right? This basically deletes it. Is it 1? I thought it was 0. It's 0 based. It should be 0. You want from the 0 element, right? You're saying 1 colon. 1 colon will be from the position 1. You want it from position 0, right? Remember, lists are 0 based, right? Okay. But Susan, back to your question. Did this make sense? I mean, this is how you could delete it, right? Okay. I mean, you could actually write in the, because we know that the length is 10. So, or in the test example, it's 3, right? So you could either put in a variable here and calculate the length, or you can do it this way. All right. All right. Oh, Stephanie, that's the question. Okay, so Susan, do you have a question? Insert position number, we are to print the data that corresponds with the student ID, right? Yes. So what you have to do is when, let's say I'm using 2-digit student IDs, right? And so student 1 is 31, student 0 is 31, student 1 is 23. So let's say I'm looking for student ID 23. then that's position 1, right? And so I'm going to print out the name at list position 1, and I'm going to print out the ID position 1. I'm going to print out score score 1 position 1, score 2 position 1, score 3 position 1. So the reason I want the ID is to find the position number. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Because the index number or the position number is not necessarily the ID, right? So just be aware of that. You know, the student ID could be anything. It could be a 5-digit number. In our case, it's like a what is it, 9-digit or 12-digit number or something like that, right? So don't assume that the ID, the student ID, is the index number of your list. That is not the case, okay? And if you do it that way, then that's wrong. You want the position number of the index that the value was found at. So when you ask for the student ID, you're going to search for it in the ID list, get the position number, and then use that to print out the name, the ID, and the scores. Is everyone clear on that? Can I get a yes and no on that? Clear this. Is everyone clear on how that program is supposed to work in terms of the position number or the index number of the list, not the ID? The ID is just data entry, right? Okay. All right. So Assad said no. So do you have a question for me? Okay. So the ID is a list, and the IDs can be anything. They could be numbers, they could be letters, they could be anything. In our case, if you look at our student IDs, they're 88 and then a bunch of numbers, right? That is not a position number. Ultimately, what I need to do is find the position number in the list so that I can then pull the name and I can pull the scores. Okay, so when I search for student ID, what I'm getting back, what I need to be able to find all the other data is the position number. Okay, so let's say the student ID is A56, right? And that's in position 4. Well, name, position 4, will give me the name of that student. Score 1, position 4, will give me the score for that student, and then score 2, position 4, will give me the score 2, and score 3, position 4, will give me that position. Okay, does that make sense? All right. Good. Robert, did you have another question? You would replace that 0 with, no, not a 10. I would replace the length G names with 10 if I know that there's 10. But here's the thing. If you want to write a more robust program, okay, let's say for some reason someone stopped doing data entry at 5 students. If I used 10, I'm going to get an error because I can't delete the positions, you know, basically, what is it? 6 or 5 through 9, right? Okay. So be careful with hard coding 10 or 3. Try to use length of your list as much as possible. That's better programming practice. All right. Good. Sorry. Sometimes I get carried away, but I'm just trying to stress the idea that you want to use length. Any other questions? Yes, Robert. did I answer your question already? Okay, I want to go over one more thing, which is what's called passing a list. So if you wanted to pass the entire list from your main program to your function, then this is how you would do it. So if we look in our lists over here, in the section down here that talks about passing lists as parameters. Here, we're using lists as parameters. So here's one example in the book, okay? So you can see this is a function here, okay? Double stuff. And it has a parameter called a list, okay? In the main program, I have a list, right, called things. It has the numbers 2, 5, and 9 in it, okay? I print it, and then I do double stuff. I'm calling the function, and I pass it the entire list. Now that list is available to me as this list called a list. So the names, they could be the same, but it's better that you keep them different so you can just differentiate which one is in the main program and which one is in your function. Right? So basically, if you're doing like a search, okay, you could run a function called search, pass it the student ID, and return the position number, right? And then print out the name array at position, whatever position number is returned, and the scores at that position number. All right, so this is an example of where I'm passing an entire list as a parameter. I also have an example in the module section that's pretty simplistic that shows you how that works as well. So if we go to module, is passing list as a parameter. It's a very simple example. Okay. So here I have a list called social media. I'm calling the function social function, and I'm passing the social media in there. It's passed in a variable called args. Okay, and then you can basically use this. This is basically to print it out. I'm using a function string to print it out as basically args. Right. So if you run this, I have this as an example. Pass list. So if I run this, notice that the whole list passed is that, okay? So passed with str1 value, right? So this is position 0 is Facebook, okay? And without strings is, you don't have to worry about this, but this is just the 0, right? Okay. Strings is just a function, just to convert it to strings. Right? So the example in the book is also very similar, right? It's using numbers. Right? Okay. So again, notice that they're using like this. See? Sometimes you don't know the length of the list, and so you have to always assume that you need to calculate the length. This is just doubling it. Okay? So I could write a function to search like this. Let's actually do that so you can get an idea of how this would work. Let's use the search example that I did. Okay. Let's create a function for appending names. All right, this is a good one. All right. I'm going to call it pop list. I'm going to call it just call it index. Yeah. And then I want to do populate. I want to do no, actually populate. I probably have to do that outside. No, let's do the search. Def search. Okay. modify it. Put work. So even um, let's say I want to actually return. Let's say I don't want to do this. I want to actually set it to um, I. Now I name it not in list. And I want to I. Every time we look at that, how that works with the this is why it's taking so long to do stuff. Okay, let's go. Let's look at function. Function with return value. Should run this, right? Alright, so let's see, function with return values. Return y. Here we go. Okay, so return y. So in this case I'm returning position. Or returning actually, I'm sorry, returning that pause. Right? And then I want to just call the function here. And it's greater than 0, then I want to make this bigger so I can see. I want to do search. And then I want to set that equal to actually this should be equal to that, right? Equal. Okay, is that right? Okay, yeah, let's try. I don't want to delete, so let's just. Um, okay, so in this case, this is the main function here, or the main program here. I set up my list here. I populate it with 3 names, and then I check to see if the length is greater than 0, and then I create a variable called position, and I basically call the list, the search list, and I pass it the list that I created above here, and then it goes up here, and then it searches, right? So it basically asks for the input, says what are you searching for, and then it goes through and searches it, and then if it finds it, it sets the return position equal to the position. If not, it says print. But I gotta do this differently. Let me see. Yeah, actually I need to do this slightly differently. I need to do okay, so I gotta do let's first set that to 1. Yeah, that's good. Then I want to do, okay, I can do it here. Okay, that's good. So if that doesn't do it, it's going to keep rep pause as it is, and return rep pause. Okay, so here I need to do a check. See if function or one, or actually not equal to, no, let's do it that way. If equal to, it's just not equal to that, let's check. Decisions, there's the logical, not equal to, because all is different in each program. Not logical operators. Oh, not equal to is exclamation point. Equal. I want to say not equal to. I want to do this, right? Not equal to -1, then print that out. So this has to be indented. All right, let's see if this works. I'm doing it on the fly, so just be aware of that. So what didn't it like? Position. Because of what? If position not equal to print. Oh, I think I have to do string, right? I have to change this to string. Oh, no. The comma is supposed to be here. Comma. Comma. All right. Okay. So, John, Mary, Jim. I'm searching for Mary. Oh, what didn't it like? Str input. Str input. Oh, I didn't change this to search item. There we go. Do the junk and then run it again. Say okay. Alright. John. Jim. Mary. Jim. And number Y. If not equal to -1, then print this. Position equals search list. SVARC page list. G names, passing G names. Oh, I think this has to go up here. Yeah. Yes, position 1. All right, it worked. Okay, so I'm going to let you look at this for a while and see if you have any questions on it. This has a lot of what you're going to write. Okay. I'm actually going to put this one up. I like this one so much. This one was cool. All right. So I'm going to put this one under the approach. Put it underneath there. Let's see. Modules. Let's see if I can put a subset, or I can put it. I'll put it actually underneath the parameter one. Here's the parameter one. Passing list is the parameter. Here. Actually, this example is not that good. I'm going to replace this entire example with that. This one is kind of weird. Yes, Robert, you had a question. Okay, cool. All right. So that's, yeah, so this is an example of clearing out the list. Okay, not the heart, right. So, yeah, so just putting a colon will delete the list. So the example that I had was here. Let's see. Which one was I using for clearing? I think I deleted it. But yeah, if I wanted to clear it, at the end, if I wanted to clear it out, I can just do G name delete G names and just put a colon, and it will delete the entire list. All right? Yes, exactly. Who had that question? I forgot. Someone had the question. Clear it out. Use some of that to clear it. Yeah. I think Stephanie, right? All right. So I think I've given you all of the pieces you need to be able to write this program. So what I want you to do is attempt it, start working on it, starting either tonight or tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to have another lab session, and then I'll go over individual code where you're having trouble. Okay, and I mean it's going to be more interactive. So I'm going to refer back to these samples, and then basically, help you fix your code. Okay. Any questions before we wrap up? Yes, Jim. Yes, Saturday from 1 till 3. I will be there on Saturday from 1 till 3. I'll write it on here so you will get it off this Saturday 1 to 3. Robert, you had a question. No question, but can we have the last day of class on Python classes? If you have, well, I will do on Friday, on the Friday lecture, I'll talk about classes. All right? How about that? Yeah, I know we covered everything but classes, but really it's really classes are covered in your C++ class when you get there. So I don't want to confuse anyone, and I don't necessarily want to use it in any of the problems, but we can talk about it, absolutely. I think there's a module on it, right? Let me see. Let's go to this one and look at the thing here. Look for classes. Define classes. There we go. All right, so we'll talk about it definitely. All right. All right. But this gets into object oriented, and that's really for the next class. Yes, Laura, you had a question. Yeah, I'm almost done with the midterm, so I'll have that done, and then I will be finishing up the other two. Hopefully I'll get those done by Wednesday, so you'll have everything by Wednesday. Maybe earlier. Robert, yes. That's the wrong 5-2. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'll open it back up. Or did you send it to me as a private message? Yeah, that's fine. I'll take a look at it from there. All right. Any other questions for tonight? So we covered two things really tonight. two core things. One is searching a list, and you have samples in the module section on how to do that, and how to pass a list as a parameter. And I combined search and passing the list as a parameter in a sample program. All right. So definitely. Here's what I would suggest you do. Start with those and build your programs around it. Right. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Take those and build your program around those samples. Yes, Assad. Yes, it is a recorded session, so you can go back to it. I've been recording these since the second lab. I didn't record the first lab, but every lab is recorded. Every lecture and every lab. All right, so I will basically be shutting this down. All right, good. Good questions. Really, really good questions. I like that. And I think, thank you for being patient for me for writing some of these programs. Sometimes, again, you can see even seasoned programmers can make syntactical errors or errors in programs. But you notice how I was working at it, right? I would try something, see what error is, go fix the error. Try something else, see what the error is. And so that's the iteration that you want to do. Is you want to start writing code and then see where the errors are. But you have to understand a little bit the logic of what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, that's the key part first, is understanding how you want to do it. And the logic is kind of given to you in the problem definition. So you just got to follow that through. All right, so we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Thanks.